If you're wondering how to survive 45 minutes of people just speaking to you, this is exactly how we feel after the homily in a Sunday Mass. Now, if you're asking me why the young are not coming to church, you know the answer. I come from an extremely devout Catholic family because we choose to be devout. I will tell you of 3 priests who never wore a cassock, who made us such a devout Christian. And therein lies, I think, what I really want to say today. The most important priest in my life was my grandfather, who had 11 children, never wore the cassock, but never left the rosary. Our day started with the Angelus. Evening prayer was 1 hour. You must be thinking, I'm so blessed, right? We slowly convinced him to drop the Angelus. Then we slowly convinced him to drop the 2 hymns for the evening prayers. Then we slowly convinced him, one day rosary, one day litany. Like, you don't want, Mother Mary on Saturdays getting overwhelmed with so many people asking her so many things. And Wednesday, St. Joseph, and all of that. So the poor man said, I shall pray for everyone. And I remember he going out on a Sunday morning with Jesus, Mary, I love you, save soul, on a Sunday morning, like he would regularly go to church. I believe the expectation of us as laity from each one of you is that you will make us love Jesus and Mary. Like there is really nobody else for us but these 2 people. Do you do that? Do you make us believe in this man who walked on this earth, shed his blood because he loved me so immensely? Do you show that kind of love to me? Because that's what I'm expecting from you. Just like you are part of a seminary and a church, do you know my little home in Koramangala is a little church where I'm trying to form a child into believing that Christ loves him, that Mother Mary's mantle will protect him. And I can tell you, that did not happen because I took him to the Sunday church. You know why? Because he said, I'm scared of the Father. I said, why are you scared of the Father? Because he's always asking me, why are you not coming for catechism? Why are you not coming for catechism? I said, okay, so why are you not going for catechism? He said, Ma, it's boring. It's exactly like my school. And then they talk about when I die. And they talk about sacraments. I said, did they not talk about the fact that Christ loves you? He says, no. They spoke about everything else. I want you to lead my son to Christ. This infinite spirit of love that resides, and I personally can stand here not to preach to the already converted, but to people whom I can shake up and ask, can you get little children to just love Christ? Because Christ loves them, irrespective of whether they are intelligent, whether they are smart, whether they are from Mangalore or whether they are from Kochi. Can you just make them understand that they are loved, incredibly loved, that Jesus is carrying them on their bosom and going every day? I come from a family, by the way, where more people ran away from the seminary than they became priests, with Father Lawrence being the only exception, I think, and not so much my family, but my sister's family. And every time I ask them, why did you run away? Like, you really thought marriage is better? Ask us. And they said, you know what? My grandmother would always say this, and if this audience knows Tamil, she will say, veetla oru peye, huh? Okay. Madathila votukku oru pei, right? So, to just, I know few of them are laughing because they obviously know Tamil. For those who don't know Tamil, she said, my grandmother, again, an extremely devout Christian, okay, said, in the house there's only one devil. In the seminary, yeah, every tile on the roof has a devil. So it's difficult. So apparently my mother wanted to become a nun, and she still regrets it. So she was asking my grandmother one day, saying, I told you I wanted to become a nun. And she says, just knowing you, you would have come running back. Okay? So I knew, that you wouldn't have kept quiet, because the nuns expect you to keep quiet. You ask 100 questions. And it's true. My mother is 80, and every day for breakfast, I try and spend time with her. She asks me 40 questions, minimum. And the 40 questions are, did you just give me breakfast? It takes tremendous effort to be a laity, believe in the power of Christ, in the love of this particular, I love to believe in this religion, but I'm increasingly realize I love Christ more than the church, and that's the truth. Because the church is becoming an administrative place. I lost my father not to COVID. Thank God for that, right? And I went to the priest, just having lost my father an hour before, and I went to the parish priest, hoping he'll make me feel safe even after I lost my father. And he said, do you have family book? Not even a sorry. Not even a handshake saying, I'm so sorry you lost your father. He said, do you have your family book? Is it up to date? I said, yes, Father. He says, now from here I'll give a letter. You'll go to Patrick's Church. From Patrick's Church, they'll give you another letter. So I went to Patrick's Church. There the priest said, oh, you don't belong to our parish. Go and talk to somebody else over there. I said, okay. So I went to the other person who was another laity, right? Yeah. Again, in Tamil it is said, it's far easier to reach God than the priest, and it's far easier to reach the priest than the catechist, right? So I went and met, and I said, my father's died. I'm from Koramangala, and I need, we don't have apparently a cemetery of our own, so we have to come to Patrick's. And they said, do you know we don't have, so best is for you to cremate, and you can take the ashes, and we will give you a space in the wall in which you can keep the urn for 3 years and then take it back. So then I had to bribe Jesus, right? So I called up a very dear friend of mine who's a priest. We studied MSW together, and I asked him, Kennedy, what do I do? For my own sake, I'm telling you, I don't care if I'm dead and you bury me or you throw me to the winds or whatever it is in life. But truly, I want this. And my husband, I must add here, is an outstanding Christian, okay? He stands outside all the time. Sunday Mass, Good Friday Mass, Easter Vigil, call it whatever you may want, but he's an outstanding Christian. He's also an outstanding Christian by spirit. I don't think the man's head hits the pillow any day or any night without he offering that silent 1-minute prayer to his Maker. And I don't know what he tells him, but he tells him something. Maybe it is, tomorrow can I deal with a better wife, right? Possibly. But he's definitely praying something every night, and I can tell you we are a fairly happy family. So on that note, he was just looking at this whole transaction from church to church to church. And he looked at me and he said, is this why you run to church every Sunday fighting with me? And depressingly, I took him out, and then of course I did get a cemetery for my father. And I asked the person who was digging the grave, how is it that you get a place here? She says, you know what, book this whole thing, just give me money, I'll block it off in your family's name and put names of all the people who are not even dead yet. What we want from you is make us love Christ, not cemeteries, not church, not parishioners, none of those things. Take me to Christ, because I think He is alive. I sometimes wonder if Christ were to see the church today, whether he would want it to exist the way it is. Or would he want us to become more empathetic, more loving? I ran a campaign and fed about 14 lakh people during COVID, both year 1 and year 2. Buried a whole lot of people whose families were not willing to, all through volunteers. All the volunteers were laity, only one priest volunteer. My friends, Christianity is thriving because Christ so loves us. I want you to lead me to that Christ. I want you to lead my son to that Christ. I certainly want you to lead my outstanding Christian husband to that Christ. Right now, he's still standing outside. And I'll wrap up with why are we not making it beautiful experience to come to church for our children. My son was, I think, 4 or 5 years old, and everybody was looking very grim because this was the Good Friday Mass, and he was laughing away, and everybody turned to look at him like, how can you? Like 4 years, 5 years old boy, what does he know, right? But they looked at me like, you know, the Catholic guilt? The way they look at you in church, if your child cries, it's incredible. Actually, try it once in a way, right? We forget that it's a child. And then we took the child and I went out, and then I came back after some time because I was again guilty, right? Like, how can you miss Christ service, the 3 o'clock service? I told my son, now when we go, you're going to be really quiet. So he was very quiet. I bribed him. I gave him chocolate. I gave him everything. So I took him back for the Saturday vigil for Easter, and he was again up to something. I again got people turning back to look at me like, don't you know how to raise your son? You know? And my son, and I told him, listen, baby, Jesus is just there looking for you. He said, listen, he died 2 days ago. Like, don't confuse me now, you know? And this was so loud that half the church could hear it. So I ran out of the church once again with my son. And believe me, I don't think my son has come back into the church. Make us come back to Christ. Make us come back to church. Show us that you love us. Thank you so much.